The clever one and the simple one. Once there were two householders in one city. They were very wealthy and had large mansions. Each one of them had a son, both of whom studied in the same classroom. One of these sons was bright, while the other was simple-minded. He was not foolish, only that his intellect was simple and not sophisticated. These two sons loved each other very much, in spite of their great difference in personality. Even so, they loved each other very much. As time passed, the two householders began to lose their wealth. They sank further and further until they became destitute and were left with nothing except their mansions. The sons began to grow up, so the father said to their sons, "We do not have the ability to support you. You will have to fend for yourselves." The simple one went and learned shoemaking. The clever one, who had a sharp mind, did not desire to do mundane work like this. He decided to go out into the world and look for something to do. He went and wandered through the market. There he saw a large carriage and 4 horses and their harnesses that were traveling along. He spoke up and said to the tradesmen, "Where are you from?" They answered that they were from Warsaw. "And where are you going?" "To Warsaw." He asked them, "Perhaps you need a helper?" They saw that he was intelligent and energetic, and he found favor with them. So they accepted him. He traveled with them, serving them very well along the way. When they came to Warsaw, since he was intelligent, he considered to himself, "Being that I am already in Warsaw, why should I be tied to these people? Maybe there is something better. I will go and ask and see." So he went to the market and began to investigate about the people who had brought him, and if they are better people than them to work for. They answered that these people are upright and that would be good to be with them, but it is difficult to work with them because their dealings take them to great distances. He went and saw men in the clothing business who were passing through the market in their fashionable style, with their various adornments, their hats, and their sharp-pointed shoes, and their other refinements in the way they walked and dressed. He had a sharp intellect, and this work appealed to him because it had grace, and also it was done in one's own home. He returned to the people he had come with, gave them his respects, and told them that he would not be continuing with them. As for the having brought him there, he had served them along the way. He went and started to work under one businessman. It is the way of hired servants to work for little pay in the beginning and to do difficult work. Eventually, they reached the level of established servants. His employer gave him hard work, sending him to customers bearing merchandise. So is customary for servants. They need to hold their arms upraised, draping the garments along their arm's length for the customers to see. This work was very difficult for him to bear. Sometimes he would need to climb up many flights with his load, and the work was very hard for him. So he considered to himself, for he was a highly intelligent philosopher, "Why should I do work like this? Truly, the main point of working is to achieve the goal of getting married and supporting oneself. I do not to be concerned about this yet. I will have time to deal with it in the future, in the years to come. In the meantime, I am happy to wander the land in different countries and to have my fill of the world." He went through the market and saw a large trading carriage passing by. He asked them, "Where are you going?" "To Lagorna." "Would you take me there?" "Yes." They took him there, and from there he sailed to Italy, and from there to Spain. In the course of the several years, and thus he became even wiser, for he had been in many countries. Then he thought to himself, now would be good to think about the goal. He started to consider with his philosophical analysis what he should do. He found it fitting to learn to be a goldsmith. It is a major and attractive business. It demands wisdom, and it is also very profitable. Because of his high intelligence and philosophical ability, he did not need to learn several years. In only a quarter of a year, he completed his study and became a very major artisan. He was more expert in the work than the one who had taught him. Then he considered to himself, even though I now have the skill to depend on, it is not enough for me. Today this work is in demand. Perhaps in the future something else will take its place. So he went and found work with a gem cutter, and because of his quick mind, he learned this also in a short time, a quarter of a year. Afterwards, he speculated philosophically, even though I have two trades, who knows if both of them might fall out of the man? Better that I learn a trade that will always be important. He concluded with his understanding and philosophy that he should learn to be a doctor, which is always needed and important. It is customary that before learning medicine, one must learn Latin, how to write, and the wisdoms of philosophy. Because of his understanding, he also learned this in a very short time, a quarter year. He became a great doctor, and the philosopher learned in all the wisdoms. But then the world seemed to be insignificant in his eyes because of his wisdom, being so skilled and professional, a wise man and a doctor. All the people in the world seemed insignificant to him. He began to think about fulfilling his goal and getting married. He thought to himself, if I marry here, who will know what became of me? I will go back to my family so that they will see what I have become. I was only a young man, and now I have come to such greatness. So he went on to his home. However, he suffered intensely along the way because of his sophistication. He had no one with whom to talk and could not find lodgings according to his taste. Oh, he suffered greatly. Let us now leave the story of the clever one for the time being, and we will start to tell the story of the simple one. The simple one learned the trade of shoemaking. Because he was simple, he studied a long time until he was able to find work. And he was not a great expert either. He married and lived off his work, but because he was simple, he was not so talented in the work. His earnings were meager and limited. Since he was not skilled in the work, he had to work constantly and did not even have time to eat. So while he worked, while making a hole with the awl, while inserting and drawing out the thick thread in the way of shoemakers, he would snatch a bite of bread to eat. But he was also very happy. All the time, he was filled with happiness. He had all kinds of food, all the drinks, and all the clothing he wanted. He would say to his wife, "My wife, give me to eat." She would give him a piece of bread and he would eat. After this, he would say, "Give me beans and sauce." She would cut him another slice of bread and he would eat. Then he would praise it, how fine and tasty was that sauce. He would then ask her to bring him meat and other fine foods. And in place of each item, she gave him a slice of bread, and he delighted from it very much. He would praise each food extravagantly, saying how well prepared and good it was, as if he was eating the actual food. In truth, he really tasted in the bread the taste of each food he wanted, because of his simplicity and great happiness. Likewise, he would command, "My wife, give me beer to drink." She would give him water, and he would praise the quality of the beer. "Give me honey." She would give him water, and he would praise it as before. "Give me wine," and so on. Each time she would give him water, and he would enjoy and praise it as if he were really drinking that beverage. Similarly with clothing, he and his wife together shared one fur coat. When he needed to wear a fur coat, for example, to go to the market, he would say, "My wife, give me the fur coat," and she would give it to him. When he needed to wear a suit to go in formal settings, he would say, "My wife, give me the suit." She would give him the fur coat, and he would delight in it and praise it. How fine is this suit! When he needed a kaftan, for example, to go to the synagogue, he would say, "My wife, give me the kaftan." She would give him the fur coat, and he would praise it, saying, "How fine is this kaftan!" Similarly, when he needed to wear a formal overcoat, she would also give him the fur coat, and he would praise and delight in it as well. "How fine and beautiful is this overcoat!" And so on. He was always filled only with joy and satisfaction. When he would finish his shoe, and it can be assumed that it was triangular in shape, for he had not mastered the craft, he would take the shoe in his hand and praise it highly and would take great delight in it. He would say, "My wife, how beautiful and wonderful is this shoe! How sweet it is! This shoe is as sweet as honey and sugar." Then she would ask him, "If so, why do all the other shoemakers charge 3 gold pieces for a pair of shoes, and you take only a piece and a half?" He answered her, "What does it matter to me? That is his affair, and this is mine. And further, why must we talk about others? Why don't we make an estimate of how much direct profit I make from this shoe? The leather cost so much, the tar and the laces, etc., cost such and such, and the other materials cost that much. The filler cost that amount. Now I make a direct profit of 10 coins. Why should I complain with a profit like that? He was thus only joyful and satisfied all the time. For the rest of the world, however, he was an object of ridicule, and people enjoyed themselves mocking him, for they thought he was mad. People would come and engage him in conversation with the intent of mocking him, but he would just say, only without mockery. Yet as soon as they told him they were not mocking, he would accept their words and begin talking with them. He did not want to go any deeper into that matter and speculate about their intent, and perhaps this too was a form of mockery, for he was a simple man. But when he saw that their intent was to mock, he would say, if you are wiser than me, what would that make you? You would still be a fool. For who am I anyway? So even if you were wiser than me, you would still be a fool. All this was a description of the simple one. Now, let us return to our story. Meanwhile, a great commotion arose. The clever one was returning with great honor and wisdom. The simple one ran with the others to greet him with great joy, saying to his wife, quick, give me the overcoat. I'm going to greet my beloved friend. She handed him the fur coat and he ran to greet him. The clever one was traveling in a royal carriage in high style. The simple one approached him with love and joy and asked after his welfare. Brother, my dear friend, what are you doing here? Blessed is the one who brought you and granted me to see you. As for the clever one, the whole world was insignificant, and also more a man like this who seemed like a lunatic. Yet in spite of this, because of the great love of their earlier years, he was friendly to him, and they traveled together into the city. The two householders mentioned at the beginning, the fathers of these sons, died while the clever one was traveling about, leaving behind their houses. The simple one, who had remained at his home, had moved into his father's house and inherited it. But the clever one, who had been abroad, had no one to claim it on his behalf, so it fell into ruins, and nothing was left of it. Thus the clever one did not have a place to stay upon coming to the town, and had to lodge in an inn. He suffered so much there, because the inn was not of his liking. The simple one had found himself a new job. He'd run back and forth from his house to the wise one with love and joy. He saw the suffering the clever one was enduring in the inn, and said to him, my brother, why don't you come and stay in my house? I will gather everything of mine into one corner, and the rest of my house will be free for you to use. This pleased the clever one, so he came to his house and stayed with him. The clever one was constantly filled with agony, for it became known that he was a magnificently intelligent man, a craftsman and a very great doctor. One noble came to him and asked him to make him a gold ring. He made the man a very wondrous ring, engraved on it images with incredible workmanship, specifically an image of a tree that was very impressive. The nobleman came and was not at all pleased with the ring. The clever one had such suffering from this, for he knew that in Spain, this ring with the tree would be very honored and valued. Another time, a high-standing noble came to him with an expensive precious stone that came from far away, together with another stone with an engraving. He asked the clever one to copy the image from the engraved stone onto the other one. He copied it exactly, barring one mistake that no one else would be able to discern, aside from himself. The noble came to take the stone and was very pleased with it, but the clever man suffered intensely from the mistake. My wisdom is so great, yet I made a mistake such as this. He suffered also from his work as a doctor. When he came to a sick person and gave him a treatment, he knew with certainty that if the man would survive, it was due to his treatment, because his treatment was an amazing one. Sometimes, though, the man died, and everyone would say it's his fault. He suffered intensely from this. Other times he treated the man and cured him, but everyone said, it is just by chance. Thus he was constantly filled with suffering. One time he needed a garment, so he called upon a tailor and toiled with him until he taught him to make the garment to his liking as he was accustomed. The tailor succeeded to make the garment according to his wishes, with the exception of one lapel that was a bit off. The clever one suffered exceedingly for this, for he knew that although here it was attractive enough, for people here knew no better. If he were in Spain with that lapel, he would be the butt of jokes and he looked on as a clown. He was constantly filled with agony. The simple one would run to him joyfully all the time, but always found him pained and full of suffering. He asked him, "Someone so wise and wealthy as you, why are you suffering all the time? You see, I am filled with joy all the time." However, in the eyes of the clever one, he was a laughingstock, a lunatic. The simple one said to him, "Even if the average man mocks me, he is a fool. For even if he is wiser than me, he remains a fool. All the more so a clever man like you. What would you be if you were wiser than me?" Then the simple one said, "If only you could come to my level." The clever one answered him, "I come to your level? If I was to lose my intelligence, God forbid, or if I became sick, God forbid, and became insane, for what are you? A crazy man. But for you to come to my level is totally impossible, that you would become wise like me." The simple one answered him, "With the Holy One, blessed be He, anything is possible. It could happen that within the wink of an eye, I would come to your level." The clever one laughed at this a great deal. Now these two sons were known in the world as the clever one and the simple one. Even though there were many clever and simple men in the world, in this case it was especially blatant, for both of them were from the same place and had learned together, yet one of them had become awesome in intellect and the other was an extremely simple person. In the census book in which were written all the names of the people of the nation, these two were identified as the clever one and the simple one. One time the king came upon the census book and found written there the names of the two sons, one with the name Clever One and the other Simple One. It was a wonder in his eyes that these two were identified by these names, and he desired to meet them. He thought to himself, "If I send for them suddenly to come before me, they will be very frightened. The clever one will lose his clarity completely, and the simple one might simply go crazy from fear." He decided to send the clever messenger to the clever one and the simple messenger to the simple one. The only problem was how to find the simpleton in the capital city, for most of the people in the capital are sophisticated. However, the treasurer was by intention a simpleton, for a clever man is not appointed as a treasurer lest he, through his wisdom and intelligence, embezzle the treasury. Therefore, they specifically appoint a simpleton to be treasurer. So the king called to a clever man and to the simpleton mentioned above, and sent them to the two sons of his story. He gave to each messenger a letter. He also gave them letters addressed to the local governor of the province of the sons, and ordered the governor to send his own letters to them so they would not fear. He should explain to them that the matter is not urgent, and that the king is not commanding them to come. It is dependent on their own choice. If they want to come, they may. However, the king desires to see them. These two messengers set out and came to the governor, giving him the letter. The governor asked to know more about the two sons. They told him that the clever one is incredibly bright and very wealthy. The simple one, though, is exceedingly simple, and his whole wardrobe consists of one coat. The governor judged that it would not be fitting for the simple one to appear before the king in his old coat. So he provided him with appropriate clothes and placed him in the royal carriage of the simple messenger. He gave the messenger letters, and they set off for the town of the two sons. They gave them the letters, the clever messenger to the clever one, and the simple to the simple. As soon as the simple one received his letter, he said to the messenger that brought it, "I cannot read what is written here. Read it for me." The messenger said, "I will tell you in brief what is written here. The king wants you to come to him." The simple one said, "Just promise me that you're not joking." He answered, "It is certainly the truth and not a joke." He immediately became filled with joy and ran to his wife saying, "My wife, the king has sent for me." She asked, "Why? On what account?" But did not have time to answer, and hurried out joyfully with the messenger. He entered the carriage and sat inside, found the new clothes, and became more and more joyous. Meanwhile, news spread that the governor had behaved corruptly, so the king removed him from office. The king then decided that the governor ought to be a simple man who would govern the state with truth and uprightness, without any cunning innovations. The king chose the simple one, and sent a letter to the simple messenger that the simple one was to become governor. His route of travel passed through the governor's city. So the king posted men at the gates of the city. As soon as he arrived, they were to stop him and crown him governor, and so they did. They waited there, and as soon as he came, they stopped him and informed him that he had been made governor. He asked them, "Just promise me you're not joking." They answered that it was certainly not a joke. He immediately became governor with authority and power. Now that his fortune had turned, and a change of fortune brings wisdom, he gained more understanding. Even so, he did not use his wisdom at all, but rather ruled with simplicity as he was accustomed, and led the country simply, with truth and uprightness, without a trace of corruption. To rule a nation, one does not need high intelligence and cleverness, only simplicity and uprightness. When the two would come before him with a case to be judged, he would say, "You are innocent and you are guilty," according to his true simplicity. Without any cleverness or deception, he ruled all matters with truth. The people loved him very much. He had advisors who were true friends, and due to his love, one of them advised him, "You will certainly have to come before the king, first because he sent for you, and second because it is customary for governors to appear before him. Thus, even though you are very satisfactory and there is no corruption in your ruling of the state, nevertheless it is the way of king to speak in a sophisticated fashion and in other languages. Thus it would be appropriate and well-mannered if you would be able to respond. So it would be good that I should teach you wisdoms and languages." The simple one found this agreeable, saying, "Why should I mind learning wisdom and languages?" Immediately he thought of the words of his friends, the clever one, that it would be impossible for him to come to his level. Now he had already reached the other's wisdom, and yet, though he already knew much wisdom, he did not use it at all, rather ruled everything with simplicity as was his custom. After this, the king sent for the simple one, who was now governor, to come before him, so he went. The king started talking with him about the governing of the country and was very pleased, for he saw that he was ruling with uprightness and great truth, without any corruption or deception. Then the king began to speak about various disciplines of knowledge and languages, and the simple one answered him appropriately, and found more and more favor in the king's eyes. The king said, "I see that he is such a brilliant man, and yet he rules with such simplicity." This was very pleasing to the king. He appointed him to be a minister over all the ministers. He set aside a specific place where his chair of office would be. He commanded that beautiful and extravagant buildings be built to house administration. He gave him a letter testifying to his position, that he should be a minister as described. And so it was. They built him the buildings in the place where the king had commanded, and he accepted his honors with authority. Now, when the clever one received the letter from the king, he answered the messenger who brought it, "Wait and stay here the night, and we will talk and consider the matter together." In the evening he made him a festive meal. During the meal he drew on his wisdom and philosophy and said, "What is this, that a king such as this would send after me? After a lonely person such as I? Who am I that the king would send for me? He has such authority and power, and I am a lonely and despicable in comparison to such a great and awesome king as this. How could it be explained that a king such as this would send after a lonely one such as I? If it is because of my wisdom, what am I compared to the king? Does he not have his own wise men? The king himself must be very wise, so how could it be that he is sending for me?" He was very bewildered by this. Then he spoke up and said to the clever messenger, "Listen to what I say. In my opinion, and it is certainly clear and provable, the king does not exist at all. The whole world is mistaken in this nonsense, believing that there is a king. Consider it, how could it be possible that all the people of the world would allow themselves to depend on one man, who is the king? Certainly there is no king at all." The clever messenger responded, "But wait, I brought you the letter from the king." The clever one asked him, "Did you receive the letter directly from the king?" He answered, "No, someone else gave me the letter in the name of the king." So he said to the messenger, "There you see with your own eyes that my words are correct, that there is no king at all." Then he asked him further, "Tell me, you are from the capital city and lived there all your life. Did you ever see the king?" He answered, "No, for in truth, not everyone merits to see the king, but the king only appears in public very rarely." The clever one said to him, "You see that my words are clear and accurate. It is certain that there is no king at all. Even you have never seen the king in your life. The clever messenger continued and asked, if this is true, who runs the country? The clever one answered him, I'll give you the explanation. You asked the right person, for I am an expert in this, because I traveled through various countries, and I was in Italy. The custom is that there are 70 advisory positions, and these offices are held for a limited time. All the citizens of a country have a turn as an advisor, one after the other. His words began to make an impression upon the messenger. Finally, they agreed and declared that there is no king in the world at all. Then the clever one said, wait until the morning and I will show you one more proof after another that there is no king in the world at all. The clever one rose in the morning, woke up his friend, the clever messenger, and said to him, come outside with me. I will show you with total clarity how the world is totally mistaken. In truth, there is no king. They are all deeply mistaken. They went to the market and saw a soldier there. They grabbed him and asked him, for whom do you work? The king, he answered. They asked, have you ever seen the king in your life? No. You see what nonsense it is, said the clever one. They approached another soldier and began speaking with him. For whom do you work? They asked. The king. Have you seen the king? No. So you see with your own eyes, the matter is clear. They are all mistaken. There is no king in the world at all. Thus they came to an agreement that there is no king at all. Then the clever one said, come, let us travel around the world and I'll show you further how the whole world is seriously misled. They traveled around the world and wherever they went, they found that the people were mistaken. The matter of the king became for them like a fairy tale. And in every place where they found the world in error, they compared the king to a fairy tale character. If one believes that the king really does exist, one should believe in fairy tales as well. They traveled about until their money ran out, then sold one of their horses, then the second, until they sold all of them and were obliged to go on foot. They were constantly investigating people and found that all of them were in error. They turned into beggars, wandering on foot. Their prestige waned and they were not respected at all. People did not give any notice to these pathetic characters such as they. In their wanderings, they came to the town with the minister, that is, the simple one who had become a minister. There, in that town, there was a true miracle worker. He was very respected, for he had achieved amazing things. And even among the noblemen, he was highly regarded and famed. Now these two clever ones came to the city and wandered through it until they came to the house of the miracle worker. They saw 40 or 50 carriages lined up, bearing sick people. The clever one assumed that a doctor must live there, so he wanted to go inside, for he was also a great doctor. He wanted to go and meet the man. He asked, who lives here? They answered, a miracle worker. Then he burst out laughing and said to his friend, this is the wildest falsehood and silliness. This is nonsense, even greater than the fallacy of the king, my friend. Let me explain to you how false this is and how seriously the world is mistaken in this falsehood. Presently, they became very hungry. They found that they still had a few coins left, so they went to a soup kitchen where one can eat for a pittance. They served them their meal. As they were eating, they ridiculed and joked about the falsehood and error of the miracle worker. The manager of the kitchen overheard their words and was very angry. For the miracle worker was very esteemed there. He said to them, finish what's on your plates and get out of here. After this, the miracle worker's son came in, and they continued ridiculing the miracle worker in front of his son. The manager became very offended that they were deriding him in front of his son. Finally, he beat them up and drove them out of his place. They were very offended by this, and they wanted to bring a lawsuit against the manager. They decided to go back to the house where they were keeping their belongings and ask their host how to go about filing a lawsuit. They came to him and described how they had been beaten severely. He asked them why, and they answered that they had spoken critically about the miracle worker. He responded, it is certainly not right to beat people, but you also did not act properly at all. Speaking against the miracle worker, he is very highly respected here. They saw that this man was not one to take seriously, for he had also fallen into the same error. They left him and went on to the town clerk, who was a Gentile, and related the whole story of how they were beaten. He asked, on what account? They answered that they had spoken ill of the miracle worker, so the clerk beat them up and drove them out of his house. They went from one bureaucrat to another, each one higher ranking than the last, until they came to the previously mentioned minister, who was a simple one. There in front of the minister's house were stationed guards. They informed the minister that someone desired to see him, and he ordered that he be brought in. The clever one came before the minister, and as soon as the minister saw him, he recognized his friend, the clever one. The clever one, though, did not recognize him because of his refined appearance. Immediately the minister began speaking to him. You see what my simplicity had brought me to, and what your cleverness has brought you to? The clever one answered, as for the issue of your being my friend, the simple one, we will talk about that later. For now, give me a judgment against the one who beat me. The minister asked, why? He answered, because I spoke against the miracle worker, saying that he is a liar and a great deceiver. The minister replied, you are still holding on to your clever ideas. You see, you said that you could easily come to my level, but I could not come to yours. See now, I have already reached your level, and you still haven't come to mine. Nevertheless, being that he knew him since the times of his greatness, he commanded that the clever one be given fine clothes and asked him to dine with him. During the meal, they began to talk together. The clever one began to prove his thesis that there is no king at all. The simple one, the minister, snapped at him. What? I myself have seen the king. The clever one answered jokingly, do you know with certainty that the one you saw is really the king? Are you sure that he is father and his grandfather were also kings? How do you know that he is the king? People told you that he is the king, but they deceived you with falsehood. The simple one was very offended that the man denied the king's existence. In the midst of this, someone came and announced, the devil has sent for you. The simple one was very shocked, and he ran and told his wife in great fear that the aforementioned one had sent for him. His wife suggested that he send for the miracle worker. He did, and the miracle worker came and gave him amulets and safeguards and told him, now you do not need to worry at all. And he had great faith in this. The clever one and the simple one continued sitting together, and the clever one asked, why were you so frightened? The simple one answered, because the evil one sent after us. The clever one laughed at this, saying, you believe there's an evil one? The simple one answered, if not, then who is it who sent after us? The clever one answered, without doubt, it was my brother who wants to see me. He sent for me with cunning. The simple one asked, if so, how did he pass all the gods? He answered, certainly I must have bribed them. They are lying that they did not see him. Presently, someone returned with his message that the evil one had sent after them. This time, the simple one was not shocked because of the miracle worker's protection. He said to the clever one, now what do you say? He answered, I tell you, I have a brother who is angry with me, and he created this deception in order to frighten me. Then he stood and asked the one who had come for them, what is the appearance of the one who sent you after us? What kind of face does he have, and what does his hair look like? He answered, such and such. The clever one said, you see, that is exactly the appearance of my brother. Will you go with them? Asked the simple one. He answered, yes, only give me several soldiers to act as escorts, so they will not be able to harm me. So he gave him the escorts. The clever one and the clever messenger mentioned before went with the one who had come for them. Soon the soldiers returned. The minister asked them, where are the clever ones? The soldier answered they did not know at all how they had disappeared. The evil one had snatched these two clever ones and brought them to an expanse of sewage and mud. The evil one sat there on a throne within the sewage and cast the clever ones into it. The sewage was thick and sticky, literally like glue, and they could not move at all in it. They cried out, you wicked ones, why are you tormenting us? There is no such thing as an evil one anyway. You wicked ones are tormenting us for nothing. The clever ones still did not believe in the existence of the evil one and held that some common wicked people were tormenting them. They remained immersed in the sewage, investigating the meaning of it. They held that it was not real. It was simply some contentious people who had come dispute with them in the past and were now taking revenge on them. They were tormented there with intense suffering for several years. One time, as the simple one passed by the house of the miracle worker, he thought of his friend, the clever one. He went in to see the miracle worker, honoring him according to the custom of the nobles, and then asking if he could see the clever one, if he could free him from that place. He asked the miracle worker, do you remember the clever one whom the evil one sent for and took away, and from that day on he has not been seen? The miracle worker answered, yes. He asked him to show him where he was and free him from there. The miracle worker said, certainly I can show you the place and free him, but no one except you and I come. So they went together. The miracle worker did what is in his power, and they arrived there. They saw the clever ones immersed in the mud and sewage. When the clever one saw the minister, he cried out, brother, see how these wicked people are beating and torturing me for nothing. The minister shouted at him, "You're still clinging to your cleverness? Don't you believe in anything? You believe these characters are human beings? Now look, here is the miracle worker in whom you did not believe. He alone can free you, and he will show you the truth." And the minister requested the miracle worker to free them and show them that it was really the evil one and not human beings. The miracle worker did what he did. Suddenly they found themselves on dry land, and there was no sewage at all. These evil characters vanished into thin air. And the clever one saw and was forced to admit that the king exists.